So yesterday we went over and we understood what exactly Pega is all about, right? It was, of course, a 36,000 feet overview of understanding what is this product we want to learn. And also, we did a comparative understanding with respect to what exactly does application development involve, the different technologies which you need to know to build an application is something which we saw. And we also understood that Pega seems to be a solution which is, like we discussed in our story, is that cake mix using which you can make your cake. The understanding here is to build enterprise applications, we will be utilizing Pega platform, and we'll be building that without having an understanding of what is, you know, uh, all these technical skills all about. Could be programming languages, could be, user interface developing languages, which we saw yesterday. Perfect. Well, going one step further from there, today we'll try to scratch the surface a bit more further to understand what is this platform built on, what is the concept behind building a platform like Pega. This is when I want to introduce a term called as BPM. BPM stands for Business Process Management. What is business process management? It is a very simple term. If you go by the abbreviation, it just tells business. The first B stands for business. What is a business? For example, Elon Musk runs electric cars. That is his business. And in the same way, if you see a store next to you, close to your home, who sells vegetables, he does a vegetable business. So that is business. Anything which helps you sell goods and perform a trade, you perform a business there. A basic understanding of business is that same thing is true for banks. Banks have, transaction business where they do transactions, and on each transaction they charge you a certain amount. That is their business. The same thing is true for hospitals. They provide you healthcare services. That is their business. Manufacturing also does the similar thing. They sell you cars and other commodities. That is their business. So the understanding of business is that what is the process? For example, let us say I walk into Toyota's factory and I say, I want to understand how exactly do they manufacture cars. If you see, they do have a assembly line where each and every part is manufactured and it goes through different processes, right? We have seen that. We watch a lot of videos these days where things start from a raw material and then at the end they get packaged and they get delivered. So there is a process behind it. If you see, everything has a process, right? Let us say if I just have to make a cup of tea, there is a process to it. I should be, for example, taking down certain steps. I need to take some milk, I need to take some tea powder or tea dust and heat it on a pan, add the tea dust and then boil it for some time, then add milk, add sugar, and then filter it, and then the end product is my tea. So business is understood, process is understood. If you follow like a set of steps, collectively those steps are nothing but a process. The same thing is true for anything. Aircraft manufacturing also has a process, right? The process is true from making tea till you manufacture aircraft. Could be anything. Manufacturing a pill has a process. So that is process. What is management? Management is overseeing or governing these processes and these business. For example, let's say I have a Tesla, and let's say I have some issue in my dashboard. I won't be calling up Elon Musk to fix this. Of course, he manages this company, so he has his folks who will be taking care of that. There is something called as customer support, which is being managed, and his subordinates are managing that, and then that is how he's running this model. So management is more like managing a given business. Of course, there will be different processes in that. That is how you will be managing them. So business process management pretty much stands for this. Every business today, if you look at it, is pretty much built on this particular concept. There is this business, you have certain processes you have to follow, and there is management who is going to govern it. You might be working in some organization, for example, and then if you want to go for a leave, you have to apply that in your company's portal, and that application goes through multiple levels of approvals. See, there is this process to apply for a leave, and then there are certain parties who are associated with that particular process. Do we agree? Don't we see this in our day-to-day life? Right, this is business process management. If you look at it, almost all the processes you see has BPM associated with it. Just could be ordering a pizza from the nearby store you have. Let's say I should order a pizza from Papa John's, then there is a process I have to follow. Of course, though that process, the end result is you will be getting a pizza, but there are different steps you have to accommodate for to complete that particular transaction. You have to log into the app, look for the nearest store, pick the right pizza, right toppings, and then when you follow these steps, the end result is your pizza. The understanding here is the product Pega is also built on this particular concept, which supports business process management. Every application will be entitled to this particular concept of business process management. Well, we will be working more towards building applications which are more of a backend sort of applications. For example, ordering system. Though as a user you see how to order, but at the back end there are a lot of processes which are necessary to fulfill that. Though you see on Amazon you just click on a button and say proceed to checkout, but at the back end there are so many processes it spins off to go into the inventory, pick up that item, and then from there contact the nearest whoever has to deliver that product. He has to be contacted. There are a lot of process which gets spins off. All that entitles and comes under business process management, right? Of course, there are a few rules which are associated with business process management. We will go over that today. The takeaway for you would be understanding what is BPM, right? Of course, and then few basics which are kind of necessary for you to proceed ahead in understanding any platform. Well, with that understanding of BPM, I would want to introduce something called as OOPS to you. What is OOPS? Anyone has understood what is OOPS, or does know what is OOPS? If you know, good, or else that's fine. I assume that the crowd doesn't understand anything with respect to technology and is appearing here. So all these are good to know, good to have. For you to absorb anything with respect to technology, you need these basics. Real important right now, right? OOPS stands for object oriented programming. Okay, so don't scratch your head about it. I have simplified this so that it doesn't kind of go above your head, and it's kind of you need to know this, so that when we try to go and explore the other concepts with respect to this product, it gets easier so that you can relate back. Okay, so OOPS stands for object oriented programming. That is one something which you have to remember. That's fine. The first thing I want to introduce as part of object oriented programming is inheritance. What do we understand when someone tells inheritance? For us, inheritance is, oh, what my father had, and what am I going to get after he's gone? Or maybe what my grandfather had, what did my dad receive? So we tell, oh, this house, it came as part of inheritance. I inherited from my parents, is what we say. Don't we say that? This is a part of inheritance. See, right? Okay, perfect. So inheritance, we understand that, okay, inheritance is something which we inherit, in the sense which came from my ancestor to me. We agree that, for example, in this example, I'm saying mom and a daughter. Some properties of mom are inherited by the daughter, right? Perfect. That makes sense. If you see, human beings also are like that. Like, whatever your father had, you will be having. For example, the features. Your father has eyes, you also have eyes. He has a nose, you have a nose. So all these are inheritance because you belong to the same uh, creature, right? To the human creature. So you kind of inherit that. This is inheritance. In programming, what does it mean? We'll see that. But right now, you don't have to scratch your head. Just understand, as part of object-oriented programming, you need to know what is inheritance. Inheritance is inheriting whatever my parent had. That's what inheritance means. Next piece is encapsulation. Sorry, polymorphism. So what is polymorphism? Let us say you are a student. So the way you behave in school is not the same way you behave in your home. Why? Because the behavior changes. You know that the person is same, but his behavior based on the environment is changing. For example, in a school, you're a student, you're supposed to behave, you're supposed to act how you are supposed to be in school. You should always be have your shoes, your uniform tucked in and stuff like that. The same way how you behave outside, for example, when you're going to play a sport, you have to act like someone who is playing that sport. You can't behave like a student there, but you should be like a team player there. The same thing is true how exactly you would behave once you go into a mall. You should be acting like a customer who has visited mall to buy something, which means though the person is same, there are different, versions of him. For example, in school he's a student, at the sports ground he's a sportsman, in home he's a kid who is around the house. So this is a very high level understanding. You don't have to scratch your head about that, but understand that this is poly means many, morphism means forms, many forms. That's what it means, right? So a very basic understanding. Perfect. So we understood, as part of object oriented programming software, we do have inheritance, and polymorphism is something which we have understood, right? The next piece, which is encapsulation. What is encapsulation? For example, if I have to eat a medicine, sometimes I go for a capsule. What does that capsule have? The capsule has a lot of compounds and maybe elements and compounds which are put inside that one capsule. If I consume, I will be treating some disease, let us say. But you don't know what is that compound inside that. Why? Because it is encapsulated, right? Same thing is true for a school bag. A school bag has books, all that stuff, but because you have put everything inside, nothing is visible, right? You have put everything inside one little bag, and then it is being encapsulated inside that bag. Same thing is true in programming also. We will see this, but to give you a high level understanding, this is what it means when we say encapsulation, right? So this is encapsulation. There's one more concept as part of OOPS which you will have to understand, which is abstraction. What is abstraction? For example, even when you go to a ATM, what do? We just key in our card and we try to extract some cash, or maybe check uh, what is the what is the balance, but you don't know what is happening at the back end. Do we know? How do we know that it is subtracting from our account the amount we have given, and then it is going to give us whatever amount we have asked for? How does it happen? All that is abstracted. Abstraction means there is it is protected from being visible to you. You don't have to know what is happening at the back end, but you are able to perform your tasks. An example is a ATM machine. On ATM machine, the process is hidden from you. How exactly is it subtracting and making your current account, reducing the amount which you have asked for, and then calculating the total. All that is not something which is visible to you. All you do is just click on some buttons, and then your transaction gets over. The way they have protected it from being visible to the customer is nothing but abstraction, stopping from knowing. For example, if you go to a hotel, you order biryani, you don't know what is the process they are doing, but the end result is biryani. You ask for biryani, you get biryani. How did that happen? It's not visible to you, right? That is abstraction. The same thing is true in software also, but we'll go over it. But I just want to give you a basic understanding of all what all these concepts are about. With this, we'll be introducing something called as a very important concept in programming, which is called as classes. What is a class? A class is nothing but a blueprint. Let us say I have to build a house. What do I do if I have to build a house? The first thing I do is I work with my civil engineer and I come up with something called as a blueprint. Do we agree? Right? Perfect. So a blueprint is nothing but, a sketch of what I want to have. A sketch of what I want to build is nothing but a blueprint. If you go into a community, let us say it has 10 homes, all 10 homes are similar, let us say, but the blueprint is one. Do we agree? It's like saying, let us say, if I'm trying to go for a car, let us say here it's Mini Cooper. How many blueprints do you have to make 1,000 cars of red color? One. Does it make sense? Of course. A class has a lot of attributes, right? For example, if I go for a car, let us say, a car has a color, it has a weight, it has speed, it has model. All these are, you know, properties a car possesses. Do we agree? These are the properties or features of that car. In the same way, something it can do, right? For example, a car can drive, right? A car can switch gears. A car can, speed up, accelerate, and slow down, right? All these are something which it can perform. However, what it has is it has a color, it has weight, speed. All these are attributes, these are features. Do we agree? Yes, no. Perfect. So that is good. So we are trying to understand here what are what are the major features which object oriented programming offers. Of course, we understood, what is abstraction, encapsulation, and inheritance, and what is the other concept which we do? We did abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, right? One person, but different forms, right? Perfect. Now, coming back to classes. So in classes, we understood that, okay, a car has these properties, or, you know, the features. For example, it can drive. The same thing if you want to look at, let us say, a dog. A dog can bark. That is something it can do, right? So whatever it can do is a function it is going to perform. So we also refer to functions as methods. If you see here, I have named it as a method. So whatever it can do, for example, a car can drive, that is a method. A car can, change gears, that is a method or a function. All the functionalities, anything any class can provide are nothing but, are methods. All the functionalities a class can provide are nothing but methods. However, what it possesses, for example, the color, the weight, the speed, are attributes or properties. Attributes or properties, they also call it as data members. I'll help you understand why they are called as data members later. Don't worry about that. Perfect. So this is a basic understanding of object oriented programming. With this, I'll just show you uh, one more slide, I guess, and then from there we'll take it further. So this is a consolidation of what we discussed, where we understood, you know, um, all the different concepts which come as part of object oriented programming. Again, just trying to uh, cover them in an iterative way so that this thing gets really, really strong, because these are some basics which you need to remember so that we can, build on top of it, right? So of course we understood inheritance. Whatever our parents had, that passes on to us, right? One property which we can take ahead and uh, take it further from there. Abstraction, imagine that to be that ATM where you try to do some transactions but you don't know what is happening at the back end. Or a restaurant where you ask for biryani, you got biryani, how it was made, not your headache. Polymorphism, one piece of, one person but with different forms, being a student, being a child in home, being a responsible customer outside. Though it is one single person, he has these many different forms, right? Encapsulation, you're putting everything into one thing and you're uh, encapsulating that. That is encapsulation. Class, a blueprint. the best way to understand that is like, a plan for or a blueprint of a car. You will have one blueprint, but you will have multiple cars, for example 1,000 cars. Each and every car can be referred as object. Yes, yes or no? It's an instance, one instance of that particular blueprint. Do we agree? For example, let us say I have blueprint for a house, that I'm trying to build a layout of similar houses. I'm trying to build 10 similar houses in this given layout, and I have one blueprint. So I can say each and every house is an instance of that blueprint. Do we agree? Right? That's what object is all about. Each and every car, for example, if I am trying to build a Mini Cooper model and I have 1,000 cars manufactured based on one blueprint, each and every car is nothing but a object. So I have 1,000 objects of that particular blueprint or a class. Make sense? Yes? No? Perfect. Okay. So this is a very basic understanding of what is object-oriented programming all about. And this is true for any language. You could go into any language, Python, Java, JavaScript, all of them follow this particular. Uh, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, it is also a definition, but a more accurate definition would be like, if I have to understand if without relating it to parent and child, I would rather keep it like a blueprint and a object. For example, a blueprint and a house. 10 houses, one blueprint. Make sense? Okay. So because the parent and child relationship more kind of inclines with inheritance. When you have inheritance, that is when you will have parent and child sort of a approach. We'll see that also when we try to build our applications. But this is the understanding. So this is what object-oriented programming is all about. Very good. So from here, I'll just try to give you a glimpse of what does Pega look like so that we can, try to take a look. So I'm running this particular software on my system. So whenever you install it, the first thing you would be doing is logging in into this application. The first login when you try to do into the platform once you have installed is using administrator at pega.com. This is the user you will be using, who will be a super user or a root user or a owner for this particular platform. And you'll be passing the password as install, which I already have. So it is saved, so it's automatically giving it there, no problem. So I'm just hitting that particular environment which I am running on my local, right? And I'll be showing you how exactly we will be doing that. Don't worry. All I have passed here is I have told localhost, port, and then something. So you will know how exactly we will be hitting that once I show you the installation. So I'll say login. So this takes me into the environment or the Pega platform which I am running on my local desktop. The version we will be working on is Pega 8.7. It's logging in. Sometimes it will be slow. It's kind of heavy software, but we are trying to run it locally. So sometimes it will be slow. We should have a little patience to work with it. But once you are up and running, I don't think it gives you any issues as such. Perfect. So I was able to successfully log in, and then now I am on something called as, a Dev Studio. If you see, this is a Dev Studio. Whenever you log in, from administrator at pega.com, you usually go into this guy. Perfect. Something to understand here. All we did was we hit a URL. It's like logging into your Gmail, right? Just give the URL in the browser and then pass your credentials, right? We passed those credentials and then it brought us here. Something to note here is there are different features which are available as part of this particular login. As soon as you logged in, you came into something called as Dev Studio. What is Dev Studio? Like, for example, everyone, for example, a developer will need a space where he can, build it. If you go for a painter, for example, he needs different sheets to sketch. That is his dev space, or a space using which he'll be performing his artwork. The same thing is true for developers. The developers also need a space where they can, build or, perform the operations using which they'll be constructing an application. That space is nothing but Dev Studio. For example, if you are a programming developer, you will be using something called as IDEs, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. So you can call this as your development environment. This is the environment where you will be building everything with respect to Pega. Does it make sense? All we have done here is just logged in using administrator credentials. Yes or no? Right, perfect. So as soon as you log in, you see a portal like this. However, this particular platform comes with multiple views. So this is nothing but a view which you would be seeing as a developer. When you build applications, something the user or the customer who's going to access the application, he won't be seeing this. That we need to be very, uh, we need to understand that very clearly. For example, if I have to book pizza, I won't be seeing a developer view of Papa John's or Pizza Hut. I would be seeing what a user would be seeing, right? A portal or a user interface which is meant for users. In the same way, for developers, they have developed this particular user interface. This user interface is something which the developer will be using to build the applications. So let us understand what does this have. We have a header bar here. As soon as you log in, you see a header bar where you can switch into perspectives. For example, there are multiple studios which it is providing. One is Dev Studio. Like the name tells, Dev Studio is for development. To perform development, we will be using this studio. That is why it is called as Dev Studio. In the same way, there is something called as App Studio. There is something called as Admin Studio. There is something called as Production Studio. This particular section on the top is called the header bar, where you have multiple options. Of course, we saw this Dev Studio drop down. This Dev Studio drop down helps us toggle between Dev Studio, App Studio, Admin Studio, and Production Studio. Make sense? Dev Studio is a space where you will be doing your entire development. Then you will be thinking, what are these other studios all about? So let us go to the next studio, App Studio. Now that it is loading. So whenever you go for requirement gathering, for example, you're trying to build a home, you won't be going to someone who is going to do masonry to convey what are your requirements. Yes or no? There will be a leader for them. For example, a site engineer or a contractor. There will be a contractor who will be coming to you requirements. Okay, sir, what do you want to build? What is that which is necessary, which you are trying to build here? You will be giving your requirements to him. The same thing is true for software development as well. There is a party, someone who's known as business analyst. A business analyst is a candidate who is going to be your middleman between the customer and you. Whoever wants to build this application, they will be giving the requirement. What is that they want to build will be conveyed to the business analyst. The business analyst is a person who will be taking care of those instructions. He'll be carrying that out. So let us try to note it down while we are talking. Are you able to see my notepad? Yes? No? Perfect. No problem. So, of course, we are able to see our my App Studio, right? App Studio is a place where business analysts will be performing all their required changes. This is where they'll be trying out prototypes, capturing the requirements, and putting all lot of stuff. That is the understanding here. The understanding is App Studio is purely for business analysts. Who are business analysts? Business analysts are people who are going to gather requirements using which you will be performing this development of any enterprise application. App Studio is meant for them. Does it make sense to you guys? Yes? No? Perfect. The next studio we want to look at is something called as Admin Studio. What is Admin Studio? Like we understand, everything needs, you know, to be maintained. For example, this particular environment, the Pega environment, imagine your internet provider. Whenever you have some issues, for example, if it is not connecting, you call them up and there is a guy who comes, administrator, network person who comes and he looks at your box, he looks at the nearby routers and stuff, and he performs something. Yes or no? Haven't we seen that guy who comes there and does this troubleshooting for you, or maintains that particular box, who makes sure like your connection is going through fine? That the same thing is true for application softwares also. This application software also needs that person, a IT person who manages this particular environment. Admin Studio, like it tells, is for administrators who's going to come and check up on your environment. There will be in your team, you will have people who will be, managing this particular environment also. But we will be also covering what all things we can, monitor and check as part of our course. But Admin Studio is more of a task of an administrator who is going to manage the application, the resources which are necessary, how is the consumption of your application, stuff like that. Just right now, the understanding should be, okay, this is a place where if I have, if an administrator who has to manage this particular platform, if he has to go, this is the place he'll be going for. Admin Studio. There is something called as Prediction Studio. Prediction Studio is kind of new, and it's not that widely used, but it is more for data scientists, where you want to build predictions, where you want to perform data models which will help you design some data driven predictions, or you want to spin off sales and stuff like that. Not something which we will be covering because it comes in a totally different space, and it's pretty new. Pega has not made like really great progress there, so they aren't there aren't many opportunities on this space, so we are not something, the basic platform doesn't come with any of such capabilities, so we are not going to cover that. All we need to understand is Pega provides you 4 studios. Dev Studio is where all the developers magic happens. That's where he develops it. App Studio, place where business analysts come and spin off, build prototypes, capture their requirements, and do their stuff. Admin Studio, place where the administrators come and manage this application. Prediction Studio is for more of data scientists, sort of a studio where they'll be coming and utilizing it. Switching back to Dev Studio. Well, we were trying to look at the header bar. The header bar has the studios. You can switch between studios using this. After that, you will see something called as a application drop down, where you can switch to applications. You can go to different applications, you can switch work pools, you can build a new application. Also, you can try to see what is the definition of your application, right? You can click on definition and you will see, because we have just logged into vanilla Pega. Right now we'll see that the base application which is there is the Pega platform. See, it is called as Pega rules. We'll be going over that as well, but right now just understand that on this header bar, you can toggle and move around developer studios. The next dropdown helps you navigate into different applications which are available as part of this particular platform. Next piece helps you. Next dropdown is configure. From here, it gives you a different set of palette using which you can perform a lot of operations. Just look at that as as something which you're trying to browse through or trying to just experience and take a look. So there are different categories which are available: application, case management, decisioning, data model, mobile, reporting. Just look at this. Don't worry, we'll be going over each and every one of them when we'll be building our application. So you will be able to map the dots of what these are once we start building it. Okay, perfect. So the header bar has configuration using which you can configure stuff, these different categories. We'll see them in detail. Right now it's just a very high level overview for you to understand. After that, you have something called as launch portal. This is where what you will be using to go into that user's perspective. If I click on that case manager portal, see, this is something a manager will be seeing. He sees who are the team members under him. He sees what all queues are there, different work queues which are there, right? He sees what all work is urgent or pending. For example, if you are in a customer support sort of if you're a customer support manager, you want to know which is the urgent item to be worked on, something which has been open from too long. Let us say you are working for one of the internet providers, and there are, like, multiple requests which have come in. Of that, one of the requests is pending from last week. You want to know that. This view will give him that quick understanding. Well, what we have to understand is, using this particular drop down, I can switch and I can come here. Are you guys hearing clearly? Yes? No? Perfect. Okay. So using launch portal, you can go to that portal, the user portal, which we have been talking about. The Whenever you're going to order pizza, whatever you see is a user portal. This is this is the navigation using which you will be going there, and you will be taking a look at that. For example, right now, out of the box, Pega is going to give you one such portal, which is a case manager portal. A manager, what portal he's going to see is something we are looking at here. And then he has a dashboard, work list, and stuff like that. Don't worry about that. Right now you have to just understand that there is something called as Dev Studio, which a developer will be using to develop. Right after that, you have something called as create. Here you will be able to create a lot of stuff from here, which is again something you'll be exploring. There are multiple ways to do it, but this is what Pega is offering as part of this version. How will I know what is the version? We'll be looking at that as well. Right now, just understand that Dev Studio is a place where developers will be developing stuff. There's a search space also where you'll be looking for anything. You can type in here and you can search for that. After that, you have a question mark, which will help you go to the help. In any application, if you see, whenever you see a question mark, it will be taking you to the FAQs or the help platform. Pega has a help platform where you have very beautiful documentation which you can visit from here. There is a API, stuff like that. Just look at it as if you're trying to browse through a new phone, and what feature does it offer. you know that's it. And then it is telling what environment this is. We are on a development environment. That is why it is showing it as development. Right, development is a platform where you'll be performing development is called a development environment. See, development environment. Perfect. That is my header bar. On the left side, I have the Explorer bar, from where I have something called as recents. Recents is used for whatever uh, stuff which I have accessed recently, that will be visible here. There's something called as case types. We'll see this. There's something called as data types, app, records, and favorites. Just understand that there is a Explorer bar on the left, which you can use to go over all these options, right? Just look at it as if you're trying to browse a new phone, and these are the features it is offering. We'll go over in detail when we try to build the application. And in the bottom bar, you see something. There are a set of tools which we will be using to debug. There is something called as tracer, which helps us trace stuff. There's something called as clipboard, which helps us to view values of certain properties. There's something called as live UI, which we'll be using in UI development, right? And the other performance related stuff like that. Not too important, but right now just look at it as if, okay, Pega is a nice platform. We logged in using administrator at pega.com with install, and these are the features it has. It has, of course, something which you can take away from today is, like, there is Dev Studio, App Studio, Admin Studio, and Prediction Studio. Of course, it is built on BPM concept, right? This particular platform is purely built on BPM concepts. And there is something called as OOPS, which stands for encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, and inheritance. Of course, the classes also come as part of it, right? Classes and objects. And to understand which version of Pega we are working on, we'll be clicking on this to see. So we are working on something called as Pega Platform 8.7.0. Right now, this is it's just one version behind. 8.8 is what is latest, but no one is using it. 8.7 is decent enough. No one has yet started using 8.7 also. Very few customers, but they're still in the early stage. Doesn't matter which version you learn in, but the newer the better. That is why I have chosen 8.7, because it is GA. There is a general availability of this particular platform. And when you try to look for what is the platform, you can also see what is the system information it provides. It might not make sense to you, but just an understanding of where exactly you can look for the version you are working on, right? So the build name is 8.7 point whatever it is, and now when was it built. Metadata about this particular platform is something which is available here. No need to worry too much. This is just a bird view, a 36,000 feet view of what is Pega all about. And we'll be going over much in detail in understanding what each and every aspect does here, right? Perfect. So having said that, let us just try to add something extra to what we have been discussing, and then from there we'll call it a day, right? Let me just, are you guys able to see my screen? Perfect. So you see a new document opening. Perfect. Okay, so in no thanks. So something which we want to understand also is, what does a team look like? A team look like, so every team, let us say we are trying to build an application. So every team has, let us say, 5 developers, right? 2 testers, 1 BA. You may have 1 Scrum Master or team lead, and of course 1 manager, right? This is a team. A team who can build an application will, at a basic level, will constitute of this. For example, if you are a Pega team who is building an application, you will have around 5 developers or 3 developers minimum. Like, minimum is 3, and it can be 5 to 15 to 20 or whatever, depending upon the size of the application you are trying to build. Any team in software will have something, a structure like this. There will be 2 testers. Why testers? Kind of basic, like, whatever you develop has to be tested by someone. That is why you will need testers. There will be a BA stands for business analyst. Like I said, admin studio, who will be going to use it, who will be using that? Business analyst, to capture the requirements. I There might be a client who might come up and say, hey, we want to build a application. So to capture the requirements, the business analyst ideally have to use the app studio to capture the requirements. There is a scrum master or team lead. Why do we need a scrum master or a team lead? Let us say I come and give this big requirement of building a house. The contractor decides who goes and works on what. The same thing is done by scrum masters or team leads. They take up the work and they split it into smaller chunks and distribute between the developers, right? That's what you need, a yardstick, a person who can stand there and guide you through the kind of task. Like they say, how do we eat elephant? Piece by piece. Every given project is broken down into small pieces and it is shared within the team. That is the understanding. Perfect. And there is a manager who manages that particular application, who will be answerable for the deliverables. When is it going to be delivered and stuff like that, at the board level and at the meetings. He will be representing this, and he will be overlooking this entire program which is being developed. Of course, there are different methodologies which we will be following. The number one methodology which is being followed today is agile. Agile means, you know, being able to deliver in smaller chunks but at a very faster rate, right? Agile methodology is very, very famous. You must have already heard of it, known it, or understood it. So what this means is, like, delivering in smaller chunks faster. Agile means being fast, right? So pretty much same thing aligns with this methodology. Every application today being built follows this methodology. So you would be asked, what sort of methodology have you followed? Agile is the methodology. Whenever you get a chance, you should be exploring what is agile all about. What does it mean? It's if again, a very basic understanding of that is, being able to build something, in smaller chunks. In agile, what happens is, for example, if I come up to you and say, can you build me this application, that will be broken down into smaller chunks, and every small chunk will be called as story, right? They'll be breaking that into a story. For example, a story could be building a login page is a story, and then this particular story, let us say, is assigned to one of the guys, like let us say Aditya is assigned this story. So he will be taking care of building this story. What is the time he gets? Every sprint ideally is lasting for 2 weeks. So this particular task is called as a story also, right? Within agile they call it a story, you can call it a task also, doesn't make any difference. But just in the realm of agile, that it will be called as story, and then that particular task will be assigned to someone, and he'll have to give an estimate how much time does he want. Ideally in any organization, the whenever you have to deliver, you deliver in sprints. What is a sprint? Like you run, right? You run a sprint like that. A sprint is ideally for 2 weeks, a 2 week sprint. All this is not Pega, to be frank. This is just understanding of how exactly, you know a IT firm operates when it has to perform any development, right? That's what it is all about. So we understand that a sprint is something, you know which lasts for 2 weeks, and you would get stories which you will be developing as part of that particular sprint. Perfect. This is just a very high level understanding. Once you try to scratch the surface with agile, you will understand what it is all about. But today's major takeaway is, what is OOPS all about, what all concepts entitled within OOPS. We'll be seeing that in detail when we try to build the applications. Don't have to worry about that. Of course, we went over, abstraction, encapsulation, right? And also polymorphism and classes. What are objects? The moment someone tells classes, something which should strike your head is a blueprint, and objects are nothing but whatever you do out of that blueprint. For example, blueprint of a car, 1,000 cars. Each and every car is nothing but an object. We'll see that in detail also, but that should be your understanding. Very important. That's a baseline on which you will be building anything. And of course, BPM, business process management. What is it? Like we broke down and we understood. What is a business? Any business which we saw, for example, could be manufacturing, or just could be, a person who's having a vendor stall for vegetables. Perfect. So that is a understanding of BPM. And we also understood what is Pega Dev Studio all about. What does the developer portal offer, right? What is Dev Studio? What is App Studio, Admin Studio, and Prediction Studio? We logged into Pega and we took a look and feel of what it is all about. Perfect. So with this, I would like to conclude today's class. For tomorrow's class, I want you guys to, download the software which is needed to build this application, right? You have to download it and have it ready in your systems. I'll be sharing that software within the group right now, so you guys can access it and